I think we need to adjust the focus. Just give us 1 second. Good evening, everyone. That's it. Now we are focused. It's wonderful to see you all. Well, even if we don't see you physically, but we can see you there through either Facebook or YouTube, and you're joining us here. We are in the Tara Yoga Center in London, and my name is Foka, and I will be your host for this evening, together with Ms. Maria, who is the coordinator of Tara Yoga Center, the school which is hosting this event. And we are here to celebrate unity. And we have with us a wonderful panel of speakers, which we will reach to in a minute. And the evening will be dedicated to understanding both the concept of unity from various perspectives and to somehow understand the value of the spiritual practice during this unique time, both of lockdown, semi-lockdown, different years, and everything that we have passing through together since it started in March. Now, a spiritual practitioner is one of the most complex periods now, and especially as teachers, as we all have, is the lack of human touch. I mean, I don't know how about you, but probably we all now spend hours and hours and hours a day on Zoom. What beforehand we did with people, now we have to move to this kind of framework on behind screens and cameras and computers. And with this is the somehow, as we also notice, we don't even see people smile so much anymore. It's not because they don't smile, it's because they have masks on them. And sometimes we have a bit of, it fortifies some boundaries. On the other hand, we find in this period something fascinating, that it is in a way uniting us, because we all are having an element that we are facing together. If beforehand we were all facing our individual life story, troubles, peaks and lows, now at least we have one common denominator that everybody are facing together, which is the situation, which is the lockdown, which is the social distancing and so forth. So here in Tara, we decided that now in the second lockdown, we have a program which we call the Unity in Lockdown program, in which we aim to create various events to keep us united, even though physically we cannot be together, kind of maintaining this wonderful togetherness in the space of the heart, even if physically we cannot do it as before. And Maria later on will speak a bit more about it. But now let us move to our wonderful panel. And as you see the lovely faces here, we have Becky Crepsley Fox, who lives in Brighton. She's a yoga teacher and a sexologist. She's practicing both herself, and she's offering personal guidance and workshops and classes on the matter. Then we have a wonderful Yora Lightwoman, which she is a Tantra practitioner, and she is the founder of Diamond Light Tantra. She lives here in North London. Then we have Patricia Marcelo from Vital Development, who is both a wonderful dancer and a facilitator of human development, mainly through movement, dance, and various forms of meditation. Then we have Furkan Doijan, which is from the Inner Space, from the Brahma Kumaris. She is from London, which helps people to reduce stress and become more resilient and engage more in positive thinking. Then we have Toda Kamisis, which is the founder of Pandora Spa, and probably one of the most equipped persons in England to speak about astral projection, and a unique spiritual practitioner who just now moved to Norfolk. Then we have Richard Robbins from Satyananda Yoga Center, which is both a practitioner of the Bihar School of Yoga. He's practicing and teaching the Nada Yoga, together with chanting and various other forms. And then next to me is the coordinator of Tara Yoga Center, Maria Porsfeld, who is both a yoga and tantra teacher, and the one who is facilitating the activities here. So the goal of this evening is mostly to hear from you, the speakers, about how you deal with the lockdown, both personally as your spiritual development, because as we know, you cannot be a spiritual teacher without having an inner spiritual practice, and how it was for you to engage both with people that you are guiding, the people that you are supporting during this period. How was it for you, basically, this period? And even if we can extrapolate from that, what do you feel is the spiritual importance of such a period that we are? I mean, we speak about the lockdown. We won't aim to go in too much in the virus or not. Mostly how it feels during the lockdown to engage with other people. And with the idea of unity, how in a period in which kind of there is such an emphasis on separation, how we can, from your perspective, bring us into a much greater unity. So this is in broad line the topics that we will ask you to share with us your inspiration. So let us start with Patricia, which just had her birthday. And she will share with us a bit of her insight. So, por favor, Patricia, to you. We will unmute you. I think you need to unmute from there. I'm sure Marcelo is there behind us.
Yeah, now I hope you can hear me. Thank you so much for inviting me to this special unity connection and being together after such a long time, and to have the honor, the pleasure to initiate somehow this reflection we will share, and to speak about how we, in a resilient way, we can take advantage somehow of this situation that humanity is going through. According to the work I do, the method, it's called vital development, is how vitally we can develop as a humanity the way to face this situation as a massive opportunity to change our habits. Everybody were complaining about haven't got enough time, and now we have all the time to be with ourselves, to enter in the silence of the musical temple of our body, where spirituality is absolutely a movement, where we become energy that vibrate. And according to these circumstances, to face a new reality and that capacity of being alive beings in constant change, adapting, adjusting to different situations, from the most complicated to the easiest. Nowadays, we connect through the space and air by Zoom, and in my classes, every Wednesday is people from all over the world in different time and space and latitude. People from Asia, people from North America, Central America, South America, all Europe. And it's fascinating to vibrate musically, meditating and movement, breathing, bringing all this energy into the heart chakra, and being able to lift up, open our throat, our third eye, and our crown chakra, and to be able to connect with something bigger, and to have a new attitude where instead of confronting the reality and adding suffering to the painful situation, to find this as an opportunity to challenge ourselves and have an opportunity to become a better version person, a better quality time life, where all our movements change the relationship with our home, with our nearest people we love, where we can enter in deep intimacy with our body and the relationship, to be able to reconstruct, regenerate, revitalize. And I found this air connection, as it is the virus in the air, and it goes into the breathing space of us, we can organize or reorganize something that always is virtual and reality. Think about when we see somebody or we say goodbye, we say, see you later, to see, to listen to the other. Our prefrontal lobe in the brain is prepared for this adjustable evolution. We vibrate and touch each other by the body language, by the beauty we put in our sounds, in the possibility to open this Vishuddha chakra and be able to interact and to vibrate and connect. Because after all, we are part of the light of the mystery that reunite all. I feel extremely renovated in this time of adversity and transform and to add beauty in this possibility. That's what I wanted to share.
Yeah, it's completely formidable and very inspiring. And being to some of your workshops, I mean, one of the things which is very specific is somehow the human touch. I mean, it's a lot of movement and there's a lot of exercises that you do with one another. And how do you manage to do this in this form? How do you manage to bypass that in this period? Again, you are muted. I think they'll unmute you now in a second.
Yeah. Now, if you come a little bit closer, I can see your eyes. Ponme la música. And come a little bit closer, everybody here, and listen to this. You will understand how we touch each other. Feel in your heart. Feel that connection of your breathing. And look at these little faces are the faces of God. It's the faces of life. And the smile and the eye connection and the body language. We vibrate, we touch each other. And perhaps we can move, we can express. So you touch me by your spiritual reality.
I'm completely with you. Thank you very much for this. And yeah, it's a wonderful.
You're very welcome.
Opening and unifying us. And now we will move to Todd from Norfolk, who will share with us a bit of his insights during this period.
Hi, Foka. Good to see you. Thank you very much for inviting me to share my thoughts on this. Like everyone, I'm finding myself going through all the different phases of grief around this, and I think this is that sort of moment we've been practicing for, if you like, for our lifetimes with our spiritual practices, and that just doesn't escape me. So I realize for me, my best antidote for navigating the ups and downs of the everyday drama of the mortal world and what's happening right now is to remember, first and foremost, I'm not exclusively from here. And, my personal reminder or reminders can come from, connecting with the source of love that comes from beyond this world. And I do that through my spiritual practices. I do it through being present. I do it through meditation. I do it through, astral projection. And, with, my daily meditation practice as an example, it allows me to go really deep into spiritual reality, where I can recharge my spiritual batteries. And when my awareness returns to the here and now of physical earth, I always seem to have a much better relationship with the physical world because I'm grounding a bigger part of me back into this world. So I think, our spiritual practices are obvious go-to things with, navigating the ups and downs. And, especially at the moment with, from my perspective, we have our world governments, attempting to shut down freedom, liberty, and innovation in the name of keeping us safe. But personally, I think, again, from my perspective, that it's a bit of an overreach. Our freedoms come from within. They're innate to us on birth, not given to us by governments, and therefore cannot be taken away by governments. And I feel I have a duty as a light worker to demonstrate resilience, in these times, because there are those with weaker hearts and minds who need us to model, strength and bounce back ability in the face of despair. I'm the managing director of a company, and I feel it's my duty as a leader to remember my team's thoughts and feelings and behaviors are all interconnected. And if I allow myself to dwell in despair, then the people that I'm leading are likely to lose hope too. So, I feel my intentions and actions as a leader must be guided by my spiritual practices. So they have to be a thing of a daily practice. A few of my daily spiritual practices include staying curious about my feelings, remembering to show gratitude for even the smallest things, humming cheerfully as I work, asking, for and receiving help, and being open to creative impulses. All of this cultivates, my awareness, my spiritual awareness. And make no mistake, just because I teach and facilitate, spiritual stuff, doesn't mean I don't have my moments where, I get caught up in the drama. And, this stuff is very challenging. So I find it hard too. And I think one of the things to keep in mind is, because I've heard people say this, it's just like, don't add your energy to problems. And I feel, this is something that needs clarity, especially in a time like this, where people might be inclined to turn away from the world's problems because it makes them feel helpless and out of control. For me, I think, looking at the darkness, is not the problem. I think we don't give it our energy. I would say not looking at our problems makes them worse. If I ignore my bills, when they come through the post and I kind of just sweep them under the rug, they're not going to go away. They need to be dealt with. It needs to be looked at. But when you look, we look with love. And, when we're looking with love, we're not denying the wrong thinking and the wrong actions that created the problem. And we're in no doubt that things are likely to get worse before they get better. But we also know the source of our love comes from beyond this world, and that love is bigger than our worldly problems. So, even when I post stuff on Facebook, about the corruption that I see in the world, I have to remind myself and I have to remind others, if I find myself fixating on how big the problems are in the world, and that's all I'm doing, I have to remind myself of my role, to tell the problems how big our God is, because we seem to give all the energy to the problems and, we make them up to be so big. And fair enough, they might be bigger than us as individuals, but they're not bigger than the universe. They're not bigger than infinity. And my role is to pray and send love. My role is to ask the universe to help smooth the energy out around these problems. My role is to ask the universe, what am I still doing that is causing this? Because there are things as a citizen of a country I might still be doing, such as my silence can be taken as consent. So therefore I have to make sure that I'm not part of a silent, minority. I have to be able to speak up and be willing to be heard and take 100% responsibility for, problems in the universe brings to my door. As we heal the corruption with our own minds, we heal the corruption in the collective. So this is stuff that I focus on at this moment in time. And there's plenty more that I do. I mean, I've got, as an example, we've all probably heard of have you heard of the love, hate, ignore experiment, the Rice experiment?
No.
Pardon?
I haven't heard.
So there's this idea, well, it's not just an idea, it's an experiment where you boil some rice and then you get 3 jars, put 3 different labels on the 3 jars, one that says love, one says hate, one says ignore. And after a few, every day, basically, you pick up the love jar, you hold it to your chest maybe, and you say kind things to it, tell it how much you love it. And then you pick up the jar that's the rice, the jar with the rice that has the label hate on it. And you basically just show it your anger, show it your contempt. And then you have the third jar of rice that you kind of just put out of sight. You put in a cabinet, you close it off from the world because it's the label is ignore. So I think, this is one of the things I really needed to do for myself. So I've got this jar, and I put it on my altar, and it only says the love jar. I don't have the need for the hate jar or the ignore jar because I've done the experiment throughout my life, without rice. I can see what happens when I show people my hate. I can see what happens when I ignore people. So I just need the love jar. So I've got my love jar. And you can probably see Boris Johnson. He's the leader here in the United Kingdom. I've also got Bill Gates with a bit of pie on his face. I've got a very young version of George Soros, who's a billionaire. And I've got the Rockefeller Foundation. So I've got all these entities in my jar, my love jar. And, I do this because, like the rice experiment, when I pick up the love jar and I hold it to my heart and I pronounce my undying love and devotion to the rice, and I tell it how it makes my heart, skip a beat when I think about it, throughout my day. When I pick up my love jar for healing the collective consciousness, I have to be willing to see the innocence in others and not just their guilt. How can I heal others if I see them as the problem and pretend I'm not still doing something to cause, that behavior?
That's wonderful. And I think also one of the things that interestingly both you and Patricia mentioned is the idea of resilience. And as both of you are guiding groups and are, having many people who follow you, I think it's one of the foundations of being a spiritual practitioner now and supporting others. We need to have this sense of resilience ourselves. And thank you very much for the inspiration, Todd. And next we will have Becky, who will share with us from Brighton her insights upon the situation and some more advice like the wonderful love jar or the feeling the movements from within of Patricia. So what do you have for us, Becky?
Okay, so I'd just like to firstly thank you guys for inviting me and allowing me to be observer to everyone else's amazing insights. What I'm going to speak to today is from my own personal experience, because for me, I feel like that's the only place that I can really speak from, my lived experience. So I sat down earlier and I was really determined to think these questions through and decide how I want to answer them. So I brought some notes to make sure that I stay on track to my personal experience. So when COVID came for me, well, with everyone, I assume, but it was a massive shock, and we had to go online overnight. So I feel like the whole world, including myself, had to go online. And from going online, everything had to change. Everything I knew of teaching, everything I knew of working with clients. I'd never really worked online at all, to be honest. So it was so new for me. And I'm such a physical person. So in yoga, I adjust a lot. That's what a lot of people come to my classes for, because I really love working with the body and kind of fine tuning it. And all of a sudden that was kind of taken away from me. And I had to find a new way of teaching and also a new interest that made my classes special. So I had to start demonstrating all of the yoga practices, and I was not used to that because normally I'd be adjusting, kind of running around the room. And it was a lot. So my body was aching. Right at the beginning, I remember trying to get out of bed and my whole body was seized up. And I thought, well, this isn't going to work. I'm going to have to reel it back in and make some adjustments. So really trying to work flexibly as much as I could. So at that time, I was really focusing on my Tantra practices. So with my Tantra, I practice kind of embodiment practices as well as sensuality and sexuality stuff. But I really started practicing emotional release, which I hadn't done much of before. So I've been in therapy. I'm a sexologist, so I've been in therapy for like 3-4 years, but I haven't really done physical bodily emotional release, which is quite surprising really, because I am such a physical person. But I've started doing this now. So once or twice a week, I make this my practice. And if you're not sure what emotional release looks like, it can look many different ways. But to summarize, it's, like shaking or jumping or screaming or shouting. So the idea is we're trying to expel what we don't need within the body. So trying to shake off trauma, shake off stress. And there's been a lot of research recently, in the past 10 years, about how emotional release exercises can stop the stress cycle within the body. So I've been practicing a lot of this, and for me, it has been absolutely transformational. And at the same time, because I had to slow down, at the time of lockdown 1, I was living in London. And before lockdown 1, I was running around London. I was teaching there, I was seeing clients there, I was getting the tube there, and it was so much. So even though I've continued working, luckily throughout, it did enforce rest. And with rest, it allowed me some space to be creative. And being creative is one of the things that I used to do when I was younger, and I just I got too serious. I got to, study too much, work too much. And it just kind of fell away from me. So I started trying to learn how to sew, or attempting. I started painting, but not painting because I wanted to look like anything. Sometimes I would just close my eyes and just paint my emotions, paint what I was feeling. And I also started learning to ride a bike again, which I hadn't done since I was a child. So I really used the space to fill it with what I thought could benefit myself, which, along with spirituality and embodiment practices, was also creativity. So at the moment, I'm kind of dipping in and out of yoga, some Tai Chi, Qigong exercises, as well as emotional release and Tantra stuff. And this space has really allowed me to connect with myself on a deeper level and be more mindful in my everyday life. So I'm on a real quest to learn, to find the blessing in every moment. And the reason for that is because that does not come naturally to me. So I'm typically kind of the glass half empty kind of person. So for me, I'm like really trying through my psychotherapy and spirituality work to find the positives, find the blessing. What can I be grateful for? And I've been doing that by asking people around me how they managed to do it, and kind of breaking it down so I can find it myself. And just simply by reminding myself, what is the blessing in this situation? So the space has also allowed me to create new concept classes. So for me, a propeller is my work, and I get a lot of joy from my work. And one of the classes I created this year is something that I call Lust Yoga. And that is an integration of information about sexual desire, as well as yoga, based on the first chakra, connection to safety, and the second chakra, connection to sexuality and creativity, as well as some kind of Tantra embodiment practices. So I've kind of created this class that for me integrates a lot of the things that I was doing separately and integrating them into a whole. So I believe that it's more important now than ever to find what aspect of spirituality works for you. And this is different for everyone. So for some of you, this could be yoga, it could be meditation. But for some others of you, this could be sitting in a quiet space when you're drinking tea, or like I mentioned before, painting. Whatever allows you to connect to either a higher sense of purpose, a higher being, or connecting to yourself. So I think this is really valuable at a time where purpose has been kind of taken from a lot of us, to find this purpose in yourself and in your own focus. So the practices I do every week help me to feel united to others, knowing that generations before me have also done this work and passed them on down. And the saying, be the change you want to see in the world, is something that I've been thinking about a lot over this past year. And I hope that you get something from that saying too. And that's it from me. Thank you so much, guys.
Wonderful, Becky. Also, I think we are, one of the things that we can already see that kind of is weaving between all of us is this idea of recreating ourselves. I mean, we all had to die to what was and kind of recreate the way we are, and 2 out of 3 of you moved location. So let's hear now from Richard. If you can unmute yourself and share with us your insight. I remind you that Richard is from Satyananda School, and he teaches and practices also the Nada Yoga and Bihar School.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We hear you well.
Hello. Okay, very good. Thank you, Todd. I'm going to start boiling my rice tonight. I don't think that I've heard about those experiments before, and I believe them, but I've never actually done it. So you've prompted me to, I don't think I need a hate jar, but it will be interesting to actually see it happen. I've had a very interesting experience. I've had 3 experiences, three kind of aspects of lockdown this year. In March, I was in India, planning to come back at the end of March, and then my flight was cancelled. So I then spent the next 6 months in India, and it was quite an amazing experience. It's been very interesting now that I'm back here in a different situation, because there I was very protected. I was in a kind of a closed community. I was a student in a school for singing, a Drupad school, and we locked the gates. We literally locked the gates, and nobody came in or nobody went out. Our biggest problem was trying to stop the children of the garden climbing over the walls and going to play with their friends in the village. We didn't succeed. But we were a community. There were about 35 of us. And we were already focused. We already had a practice. We were there to study singing. And that particular kind of singing is a spiritual practice. And so we just carried on what we were doing, basically. And then I came back here, and for 2 weeks I was in quarantine. So suddenly, from being with 35 others, I was completely on my own for 2 weeks. I had a friend who she was away from home. So I stayed in her house for 2 weeks, completely on my own. And that brought the reality of lockdown to me. And it was during that time that it was Navaratri, the Hindu festival of Navaratri. And some of my old students, I was chatting to them, and we came up with the idea, I can't remember who suggested it, that let's do some chanting, some Navaratri chanting. So we started, and I suddenly realized what I was missing, and we carried on. We were doing it every morning. So then when Navaratri finished, we carried on. I was getting so much out of it. And what it gave me was a focus of a spiritual practice, even though which I had that very, very clearly when I was in India. I didn't have it, and I could still do that. I could still do that practice, but that was on my own. It didn't involve anybody else. And one of the exciting things that I find now, if you had said to me a year ago that I would be teaching using Zoom, I would have said, no way, absolutely no way. Particularly Nada Yoga, and what that involves hearing and being and listening to others. So that's been an amazing experience for me, suddenly reconnecting with that. And the Vedic chant aspect of that, which is something that's been happening for thousands of years. And sometimes I think, why is this thing called Vedic chanting, which is so many thousands of years old, why is it still relevant? And reconnecting with that and finding out that it is precisely because it is so old, that it is actually quite relevant. So thank you, Tara, for organizing this event, and let's continue.
I think what also you mentioned there with the concept of nada and this universal vibration, that one of the way of chanting, that definitely crosses way beyond Zoom, and it's a fantastic initiate to, to create overtones and chant together even like that. It's something extraordinary, very much so like what Patricia described in the beginning. And now we move to the wonderful person next to me, to Maria, who is the coordinator and a teacher here in Tara Yoga Center, both Tantra and Yoga, who will share with us a little bit about how she related to the lockdown and how was it here for Tara during this period.
Yes, I'm going to be very honest. To begin with, I was angry, most of all, or frustrated rather with the situation. I found it really hard that a lot of the things I'd been looking forward to, spiritual experiences, different teachers' trainings, and Tantra Festival, not to mention, I was reminded again when I saw a few of you here that usually we get to spend some time together at our festivals, and they're so beautiful experiences, which for me are important and nourishes me a lot and is a moment of celebration in our community. I felt in that moment a bit tested on being a tantric practitioner in terms of surrendering to those circumstances. So I had to take a moment and realize that whatever comes to us, of course, is there for a reason and could potentially also be a chance for something positive and at least very big transformation, which also became the case after I managed to surrender. It took me a little while, but eventually I managed to surrender to this situation. There, however, I feel somehow there is a little bit of a danger. I noticed that now, that I got a bit maybe too used to it, and we all get a bit too used to it, because for instance, now in Tara, we went on lockdown second time. We tried it before, no problem, somehow, even if, of course, we were sad not to see our students. And I could feel suddenly there's a bit concerned that maybe we just get too used to things being like this. So that's kind of my most recent challenge in this direction, to pay attention not to get used to it. But rewinding back somehow to the beginning of this experience, what I found the hardest, I think, after my initial resistance was the fear it induced for different reasons. Some people are extremely afraid of the virus, and some people are extremely afraid of what happened because of the virus and the restrictions placed on us and what happened on a global scale and so on, what it meant for our lives. But generally speaking, this presence of fear that created a lot of contraction and separation and isolation and almost fear of each other in some cases. And how that actually made it really difficult for spiritual practice, these circumstances, because all of these are characteristics of the ego, this contraction, isolation, taking care of yourself by hiding away and staying separate, which became somehow a tendency across all the board. But then still also realizing that many I saw taking steps, both spiritual teachers, spiritual groups, but also people in the communities taking steps to somehow counterbalance this with love. And that encouraged me a lot and somehow supported the faith I have in us as humanity, that we can actually pass this in a way that it becomes a moment for us to grow together. And together, not now together means staying apart, covered up, and not even somehow stretching out a hand to help. Really being together, loving how we best can, manifesting support and kindness and love towards each other. And in this way, staying together and getting out of the ego limitations, embracing also more in this way our practice, those of us who are on a spiritual path, with a state of positivity and openness, which is something I missed a lot, and I know many missed a lot. We spoke a lot about it in Tara. This solution of meeting things in a positive way. For instance, in this situation, actually boosting the immune system, taking care to be healthy, to be strong, to not hide away as a solution. Because when we're in fear, that's the only solution we have, is to hide away. That's how we solve things, or run away. when we're in love, we can meet things in a positive way, thinking rather how we can be stronger, how we can grow from this, how we can be better. And at Tara, we aim to meet this need and also express that realization that we had together, many of us as teachers and also students, by having these lockdown programs, as we called them, where we had even more activities, even more supporting each other in our spiritual practice. And to aim to see this period of time as an opportunity to really practice, as some of the other speakers also mentioned. Somehow it was a chance to focus maybe more on our own personal practice, and in this way to counterbalance the fear that somehow was spreading, even touching us in different moments for different reasons, but nonetheless. And to have a breather maybe from the many trips we would otherwise take and the many activities we would have, to practice together and to share also the results of our practice. And in this way to turn it into something positive also for our own transformation and evolution. So in a way it has been a beautiful gift, because there has been so much love and so much togetherness somehow between us and our students, and the joy when we had a chance to see each other for a few weeks here and there between lockdowns and so on. It taught us to appreciate each other and our togetherness and what we actually have so much more. So now my only concern is that we shouldn't get used to things being the new normal, which I find one of the most scary terms we have floating around these days.
The new abnormal. And I think continuing, I believe that until now the trend is very beautiful, that everybody now spoke both about how they reinvented themselves, about this aspect of resilience, and about managing ways of giving even more and finding more and diverse way of offering from the richness of our hearts. And then next we will have Furka from the Inner Space and the Brahma Kumaris. If you would like to share with us your insights upon the situation.
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay?
Very well.
Okay, cool. I mean, you shared amazing things, so it's quite similar really, how we benefited from such a difficult situation if we could really look inside and take support from each other, and as well as the higher source or the energy of the universe, whatever you want to call. But in terms of, I'm here speaking on behalf of the teachers at Inner Space, because there are a few of us. So the first thing, we started using Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, all of those facilities. And my experience and a few of my colleagues' experience was, when we first started Zoom, you're not interacting physically with people, and you're more left with your own stuff after the class or session finishes. So I found that I could pay more attention to what was going on inside my own, inner world, and then I could pay attention to my vibrations more, what I'm giving out and how it is affecting everything around me. In the past, if it was a session, you would finish, you would chat to people, you would take the tube, so there would be more distraction. But I could see my stuff more with the Zoom teaching, so it was quite interesting, and paying more attention to my vibrations. And the other thing was, of course, like most of us had the time, it was quite a busy time for us, doing a lot of activities online, but still it was, because you could see your own stuff more during these times. There was also some time to see what you could do about it, because at Inner Space, we knew we are taught to understand that whatever is happening, whatever is making me uncomfortable outside is actually something that's inside me. So I had some time to work on those things that I wanted to change. For example, if there was a feeling of rejection, for example, I could really see the belief systems in my mind if I could pay attention to it gently, like Todd said, with looking at it lovingly, how you could see your own thought patterns, tripping yourself. So it was quite an invaluable time. It is in that way. And in terms of spirituality and how important it is at this time and forever in our lives, the meditation we teach is called Raja Yoga meditation, which means yoga is, other than the physical, it means connection. And Raja means the king. So connecting yourself to that king inside. But then it needs to be practical. You should be able to use it, the tools that you learn in your meditation, in your thought patterns, whatever you use. You should be able to use it when you're walking down Oxley Street in London, for example. So that's why the meditation we do is open eye meditation. Looking at my thoughts, understanding that thought power, and then freeing my intuition, my wisdom, we call it intellect, and then looking at my habits to be able to bypass them and then being able to change them. And of course, the most invaluable part is those practical tools we get in our teachings, in our meditation. For example, we practice something called karma yoga, which is let's say, like you guys talked about gratitude. So in my meditation, I'm thinking about gratitude, how it would feel, etc. But in my daily those activities as well, I'm focusing on how I can use gratitude when I'm making my tea. Like putting these qualities, these values in action. For example, that's one of the things. And another thing we use, for example, I am a soul completely separate from this body. And really, when you think about this, when you feel it, you can cope with your illnesses better. You can cope with fear, conflict with others. Because when you start to see them, these valuable beings as well, relationships become much, much easier, much more fulfilling and loving. And again, you guys talked about the quote. One of the things this is about unity, isn't it? How we can bring unity, and it was mentioned that when I change my perception, the world around me will change, and that's one of the main things that we believe in a space in Raja Yoga. And I think that's the first step of unity. If I can accept myself, that's the first unity I've already started with my mind, with my intellect, with my story, with my past, present, whatever. So if I can start accepting, looking at myself with that love, with that compassion, then this positive energy will bring out the goodness inside me, the things that are already there. And then when I'm connecting to myself in that way, then I can connect to that, outer power we talked about. You can call it God, universe, whatever. So I can access that energy, that positive energy. And making it like a relationship, this being, this energy, it becomes a relationship, so I can access it, I can use it, because it is almost my right. And then as this relationship deepens, you become more compassionate, more trusting, and then this affects, of course, all the other relationships. And then it's much easier to feel we are in this together. It's much easier to have good wishes for other people. Like your hate jar, love jar, the pictures you put on it, Todd. So it's easier to do that for everything around us. And the last thing I want to mention, one of the practices we do.
We have meditation in 8, and we really love to hear also Leora's.
Oh, sure, no problem. So I'll stop here then. Yeah.
For the wonderful sharing. And last but definitely not least, we have our beautiful and wonderful friend, Leora Lightwoman from Diamond Light Tantra, who can share with us a bit about her insights in this period. I know you were very busy online and changing things, so if you can share with us both your insights and your process during this time.
Thank you all. And I resonate with so much that the other speakers have said, and very honored to be invited here tonight, Foka. So my journey with COVID began with COVID. I didn't know I had it initially, and then I really knew I had it. And I had it mildly, I believe, but there were 3 days when it really, really did not feel mild. And it really made me question, my mortality. There was, would I survive? I had sensations in my body I'd never had before. I didn't recognize, I couldn't identify as any other illness or related to any other illness I'd ever had. So I didn't know what was coming next. I didn't know what was around the corner. And so I really was up against, what if I don't survive this? And that was, very important. It was very profound. It made me realize who really had my back, because I had to start thinking about making a will. I had to think about who would look after my child, if I wasn't to survive. It was only 3 days where this question was, very vivid, but it was a really fundamental 3 days. And I really saw people who were utterly there for me and there for us. And that was from that incredibly vulnerable place was extraordinary. That was an incredible opening to realize on a very felt sense this interconnectedness. So that was my initiation. From there, I continued with what I think has been called long COVID, which is basically just not quite getting well. And at the same time, also looking how to recreate my work in an online format when it's so much about relationships and touch. And I was very fortunate, actually, really have been carried over this period by my incredible team of assistants, who we call angels, who've now become really a unified team. And we meet each week and we start to practice what we're wanting to convey to the students over Zoom. And it's been remarkable what we've discovered. So if I can perhaps divide people roughly into those who were in lockdown as couples and those who were in lockdown as individuals, to really delineate the contrast between those circumstances. So within the couples, there were two basic directions that seemed to be shown. There were the couples for whom it was their long-awaited love retreat. They had finally this opportunity to really be together, uninterrupted in their own love nest, and they thrived. They just took the space. They enjoyed each other's company. They didn't have to do things. They were much more sensual. They slowed down. Yes, it was just luxurious. And then there was, moreover in the other direction, couples, but mostly also couples in families where they were having to also navigate children of different ages within a lockdown situation, with whom the confinement intensified everything and intensified either conflict or separation. And one thing that I was working a lot with and continue to work a lot with is coming out of the inner lockdown, coming out of freeze. And freeze is when we kind of close up on the inside. And it was remarkable in the first couple of months, April, May, when I was teaching online, how many of the people coming to those classes didn't even realize that they had locked down on the inside. And the exercises that we were doing were helping to unwind that and bring people back into life. And then the physical confinement of the room, some people, didn't leave one room because they rented one room in a shared house and they were in one room. But those people changed, because what we did was we did various exercises with the body to help it come out of freeze. And when the body comes out of freeze, it often comes more into the fight or flight impulse, which is what the body wants to do when it doesn't feel safe, when the circumstances aren't conducive. So, for example, one thing we worked with is physically containing, wrapping up, and being witnessed. We worked and we continue to work profoundly with witnessing and being witnessed, which encourages a quality of empathy, so that there's this real sense that whatever one is going through, another is really getting that person. So I'm now talking both about the couples in conflict, but also the individuals now who then started to come to the Zoom classes longing for connection. And in fact, those couples who were in freeze and the individuals who were missing contact were in a similar boat. So we worked with physical containment being witnessed as we recreated safety in the body, as we recreated safety through attention, through empathy, through the team, through the assistants, and in couples through one person really being able to hear what was underneath the disturbing behavior of the other. And that could only really come when there was safety. I'm just aware of time.
Start the meditation in a minute, and I think you brought us to this very beautifully.
Yes.
Whole idea of defrosting.
Yes.
And the idea that we actually, as you mentioned, we do it when we are together, we can somehow help each other in this process of defrosting. And somehow it brings us wonderful to the idea of the evening of having now this meditation of unity, which we can say we will warm up the heart of everybody. Those, all our viewers online on Facebook and on YouTube, we have over 100, right? Something around there? Yeah, around this. And we are aiming here, it will be guided with both with music and with all the steps to really feel this the state of unity, and how, even though we are separated in various places with even different practices and so forth, we have a form of we can call it a unifying factor, a unifying element between all of us. And in this meditation now, after we all kind of share a different perspective, we will aim to embody this, to feel it, and to intensify it in our being through this meditation. Now, for those of you, our viewers online, already now, if you have any questions and anything that you would like to let us know, write it there on Facebook, on YouTube, and we will answer this after the meditation. And now we will continue with the meditation. So all you need to do is to close your eyes now, and the rest will be guided on the track that will follow. And we will meet after for the questions and answers and some more conclusions.
Find a comfortable position with the spine straight. Close your eyes. Relax. And take a moment to focus on your breath. Feel it moving in and out of your body. Not trying to change its flow, just following it and feeling it. Gently bring your attention to the middle of the chest at the level of your heart. Feel your breath moving into your heart. Imagine how you are breathing in and out through your heart. Feel your heart expand on every in-breath and open up and relax on every out-breath. Feel yourself letting go of any tension, stress, or contraction you might hold here. Softening more and more on every breath. Visualize and feel all the other human beings meditating with you right now. Visualize a light in your heart, shining brighter and brighter on each breath. Visualize and feel this light extending from your heart towards the hearts of the others meditating. Visualize and feel the network of light between all hearts joined in this meditation. Visualize and feel how on every in-breath you receive love and light through these connections, and on every out-breath you send love and light to the others. conclude with a few synchronized breaths, feeling how we breathe as one heart. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Take a few moments to become aware of what you feel in this moment. A sense of connection, a feeling of love and openness. Take a deep breath and return gently.
Welcome back. All of our now we can open the eyes and connect like that. Beforehand, I don't know how you felt, but it felt very much like how the cells of the body would interact with one another, reminding each other that, like, remembering that we are part of basically the same wonderful and big organization or an organism. You want? Do we have any? Let's put everybody on the gallery view so I can see our guests. Do we have any questions from? I cannot see it. It's a bit too small.
It seems to be for Leora.
Yes.
Would you like me to respond?
Please, Leora. Yes.
Thank you. So I just read the question.
I can hear that.
You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear it, but if you can repeat the question that was...
I will certainly do that, yes. So the question is, I'd like to hear more about what Leora can share in regards to the people who came out of the freeze state how they were able to navigate through their old patterns without bypassing the reality. And I think I'm very grateful for that question, because confronted with something of the dimensions that we have been confronted with lately, it is such a temptation to go to another dimension. And in my own personal practice, I do practice, as many of the speakers have said, a direct experiential meditation around, being beyond the body, beyond the mind. And at the same time, in terms of intimate relationships and being able to inhabit this situation, resilience has been spoken about, to come out of freeze. What I was saying earlier is that in freeze, there's an inhibited desire, need from the body, impulse to either flee or to fight the situation. And you spoke earlier about anger. And unless we can really access that, we end up in freeze. The impulse is to do something which we can't do. And so we pull back and we've got conflicting impulses. But the answer is not to blindly express anger and rage, which is one of the things that can happen in couples in confinement. So one of the tools is really around, we've practiced a lot this gesture, which you can practice at home. And what this means is yes to me, and through the eyes and through the intention, yes to you, and no to that behavior, or no to being that close. So no to that behavior, but yes to you and yes to me. And as couples start to refine and fine-tune their boundaries, they start to feel the power in the no to that. And then they can feel the yes to me in the no to that, and the yes to you. And the conflict becomes constructive rather than like a caged animal that's gone beyond reason, where it's just gone crazy, which is not constructive. So we go into the healthy dynamism in the body that wants to rectify things. So that's the simple answer.
Both simple and very much to the point. I think very useful. I believe the freeze state is exactly what will prevent us from being united. You cannot be united if you're frozen. Yes. If we also take the analogy of water, ice cubes can be separate, but the moment they defrost, they are merged with one another. So I would say that's very much the feeling from...
Thank you, Volker.
Yeah, and do we have any other questions? Or... Yeah, we have a lot of thank yous from our viewers. If you have anything that you'd like to share, one of you, how you felt in these meditations, or what insights came to you after also you heard the others, if you have any last words, anybody. Just unmute yourself if you want to say something.
I was just thinking, Leora, I agree with everything that you said, and it's fascinating to hear you speak. And I was just been contemplating the question that you answered a minute ago, and I was just thinking about being stuck in freeze and how lots of people are stuck in freeze, and what we can do as individuals is overcome the freeze response, even though that we're still living the same life and we still have the reality of COVID, by doing these kind of movement or breathing or meditation practices. We kind of trick the body into thinking that stress isn't there anymore. So by activating the vagus nerve, we allow the body to complete the stress cycle. So I think it's really important to know that these stresses can be happening all around us, but we can still nourish and support the body by completing the stress cycle. So I just wanted to add that to the question in case that was helpful at all.
Yeah. Maybe Patricia, how did you feel in the meditation? What do you want to share with us?
The meditation, it was a vital connection with the core of the light that interconnect us. And that this situation is not what we are. we are limiting ourselves because of the situation. But the attitude of the light is that I am, but this situation is not determined who I am. It's what I do, what is happening, to remind us that this freeze or collapse is not you, is not it's a situation to evolve that is delimiting for a while, but breaking through this. I am, and situations are happening, and it's the opportunity to reveal within myself what is my best option within the adversity, like a Shiva with a foot well planted as an axis, and dancing in the middle of chaos, finding the balance in between, finding that core. And this is what I wanted to say. Please don't feel the limitation, don't feel limited because of this. Go beyond this and see how we interact and connect. We have no boundaries now. Time and space has changed. We connect with people dancing all over the world. That point of connection is unity and gratitude. And that's what we did in this unity meditation. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Foka, Tara Yoga, and for doing this work, uniting, and all the companions here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. And we also feel grateful for having you and everybody in this talk. And Maria, how did you?
No, what I wanted to say is echoing a bit what actually most of you said in different ways. This importance also of not ignoring the situation and the very difficult balance that we have to find in this moment, where we don't ignore it or pretend it's not there so we can feel fine. We also don't just accept that this is normal, how things are now, but at the same time, we have to find a way of embracing this situation and turning it into something positive for ourselves, because of course, it's also not by chance that each and every one find ourselves in this situation. It is part of our process and our growth and our learning in this life, and finding this relationship to ourselves in a more profound way, and at the same time also crystallizing the importance of relationships with others, not just hiding away and practicing, even if we suddenly maybe have more opportunity for that, and we definitely should focus on that, but also not forgetting the importance of being connected and in various ways finding a balance between so many different aspects of our life and our existence. A bit like Patricia was saying there, Shiva, the awareness dancing in this movement and finding the perfect balance without ignoring anything. And of course, those of us who are so fortunate to have yoga practice and to know about yoga practice, we have a very big help in this, cultivating this awareness and possibility to embrace the situation in a balanced way. Also why I think it was so beautiful, this trend I saw many places. We also followed it ourselves, and as a first reaction somehow to this situation, to offer free yoga classes, to really be there somehow to support people in this way through this situation and in this period.
Yeah, completely. And a bit echoing also what Patricia said, and also from the free classes that are here in Tara, it's one of the way of connecting people who cannot reach sometime to the center physically, to the Tara Center in London, and like this, they can at least join online for the classes. And this extra effort that kind of help, I believe, many practitioners like us to grow, because one of the direct ways of transforming is through giving oneself. And this is a situation in which many people are in need. And those who are practicing for many years, who are having this abundance somehow in their hearts and are more like springs, this is a wonderful invitation to give even more of that which is within, which I could also feel from all of us here this evening. Do we have anything, any last questions from online before? Or anybody else who would like to share something? Just wave to us or unmute yourself. Yes, Todd.
I wanted to say about the meditation. It's one of these things where it's like a daily ritual. One of my spiritual practices. It's something I feel I have to prioritize. It's one of these things that are just absolutely non-negotiable for me because it is a recalibration of the nervous system, and I feel this is like our when we recalibrate. I live in London for 27 years. And one of the things I did with groups was the synchronicity walks. And it was to help people, they come from offices. I always did them in the evening times during the week after people got off work because I didn't need people to show up to my event at their best. I wanted them to realize that, these walks were to help demonstrate to them how, coming to that place with your stress or anxiety, we don't have to be perfect before we go to God. So people would come to these walks in all states. And by the end of the walk, just through the process of, setting a few guidelines, trusting synchronicity, trusting, our experience, taking responsibility, one step at a time, people start to recalibrate. They start to shift away from fear into love. And I think, these kind of daily rituals, it's part of, for me, like a 3-step manifestation process. No matter what it is your desire to manifest, it's like you get clear, then you really understand the clarity by defining the purpose, and then it's the rituals. And for me, my daily rituals, like I said, they're non-negotiable. After waking up, one of the first things I do is I give thanks. I don't pick up my phone. It's not the first thing I do. The first thing I do is give thanks. Next I meditate, even if it's only for 5 minutes, because a clear mind to me, is really important to what happens next in my life. I don't want to get up out of bed and carry the same energy I went to bed with the night before. I want to actually be able to, allow the sleep to create the change in itself. It's got its own function. I then tidy my room if it needs tidying. I make my bed. I then, cleanse my body, my mind, my body, and my spirit with a shower. And I combine all those things because if I'm getting in the shower and I'm just cleansing my body, it's the perfect moment to cleanse my thoughts and emotions at the same time. So I do that. I then might wash my incense burner with intention. I then fill it with purified water. I then, set the water on my altar, for a little while in the sunshine for about an hour if there's sunlight. And then I add a few drops of sage essential oil. I place the burner in a safe place in my bedroom, and I allow the power of the essence of the sage to clear my room for the night before. Because, setting is important to me, same as for a lot of people, whether it's meditation, sitting ceremony, where I sleep is very important to me. It's the place where my mind, my body, and my spirit recharges. It's, if I treat my bedroom like a portal, like a conduit between worlds, a place to receive downloads, inspiration while I sleep, and I do the same for other things around my house. And these are like, for me, these are the practical things that are important in times like this, like programming my front door, program my bed, program my shower in exactly the same way I would program my crystals, because all of these objects all have a function. I want them to have a purpose as well. And when I program an object, I'm setting an intention. When we create subroutines for these objects, they then start to learn, as far as I'm concerned, because everything is energy and everything is consciousness, and energy is consciousness. So, I let the objects around me become like power objects. They take on a life of their own, and they serve me beyond function. So I get support not just from the spiritual beings like my guides or the exterior support, my friends in this world, my family, but the objects that are around me. I program them just like I would a crystal, to have more than just a function, but to have a purpose.
Wonderful. And I also think maybe this unity meditation is something that you can, it will be available afterwards on our Facebook page, so we can definitely incorporated in one form or another, to feel this connection and to enhance it and let it echo more and more. Do we have any other?
There was a comment from online and a question somehow to us as a group, whether we can see this these challenges, or how we spoke about we could see these challenges of 2020 as a platform for growth, and wondering whether we have as a group the perspective of a positive, wider impact beyond those on the journey. I can begin somehow on this. I think for everybody, regardless whether they're on a journey or not, it's definitely a moment of crystallization of our options. I would say that without some sort of self-awareness and some at least openness for a development and a growth, it's a very, very difficult period of time right now, because it simply does seem like, just a moment of problems and challenges and maybe devastation in many cases.
1984.
But life threatened in so many different ways, and a lot of fear, as I said. But at the same time, often a crisis situation also makes us wake up, and we really have to crystallize our choices, and we have to crystallize maybe also what is important in our lives. So it definitely highlights what is important and what is valuable for us. And in that process, there is a chance to really wake up. And I think the important thing is that we stay awake now, as I said, because I feel that maybe we just get a little bit too used to this, too used to finding ways to cope without necessarily moving beyond that, such as seeing, okay, this is something we need to live with one way or another. So what can we do that we are not putting our life on pause indefinitely, such as finding natural ways to boost our immune system, taking care not to have lockdown inside still when we can get out of it, as Leora was saying, because that's really dangerous when we are just staying locked up inside. And even if we can go out, we are not able to go out and actually connect to each other anymore. So that's something everyone should pay attention to. And I think for everyone who is on a spiritual path also, it's a moment where you really test your faith that God knows that there is a higher purpose and meaning with all of this. And for sure that there is a very good possibility that we can come out of this better and more beautiful than we were before.
Yeah, and also echo a lot of what everybody else said, this idea of resilience. And sometimes going through a crisis, it's a way like a caterpillar becomes a butterfly. Mm-hmm. And I would say that taking a bit more of what we all said, is our time is...
But maybe give them a chance.
Yeah. If you have, but as soon as our time is also concluding, that interestingly enough, the more they try to, the more we were separated, I believe, and I saw so in our students and people that we met, actually the need of being united became more and more clear. So if anybody else of the speakers would like also to share their insights on this. Yes?
Yeah, definitely. It's a special time. It seems that a lot of change is happening, and it's a very special time to access that power of that's outside that universe or God, whatever you call, to help us with this transformation and to gaining that inner stability so we can help each other, because it is tough for everyone. And just to really feel that we have a choice and we have those inner powers that we can access, like when you said, when you look inside and see your own inner strength and how you can help others. But it's definitely a special time for change. In a good way, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Any other of our speakers would like to have another word? Yes, Leora.
It's very quick. It's just, I felt so privileged in this time to have had so much input to my life that gave me resource. And it made me acutely aware of how many people have not had these opportunities. And so, just to answer that question, the more that we can step out into those areas which the online is allowing us to do, to reach new people, just with human kindness as a way in, that can start out some curiosity for growth and to be able for others to access those resources.
Yeah, definitely. The need of human kindness and warmth is ever more clear now and ever more needed. Yes, Patricia.
Just to second all of you that you have said, compassion just came to me, gratitude, but also an amount of compassion to elevate our possibilities to come out of this brighter, highest, deeper as a humanity. That's what I wanted to say, to really embrace with compassion whatever you are going through.
Exactly.
Gracias. Thank you.
Wonderful. It's been, I would say, a great pleasure and a privilege to have all of you here. And I hope that we will meet in person. I truly hope that we can, even if it's great to meet online, I will echo that let us meet also in person when this is over. And
yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It was really beautiful and heartwarming and enriching.
Thanks for the invitation. Thank you.
Echo. So it will be available later on also on the Facebook pages, and we can share this around, and on our YouTube channels. And again, a big thank you for your participation, your kindness, your inspiration, your wisdom. And we look forward to see you again very soon, ideally in person. Good night, and thank you again. Bye-bye.